Wolfie's here again, and I wanted to give you an update on what's been going on. There's been a lack of updates the last 2-3 weeks, and I think most of you have seen the Crusader videos. Kilroy and I were building that for those first 2 weeks, and the third week was me working on this ship. Every month the UESC sponsors a build contest, and this month's topic was an orbital cargo vessel. And I usually try to participate in that contest, and this is my entry for this month. Calling this one, I named it the Calypso. Outside here, we have the main landing struts. Underneath, we have a dock for docking to a station, 4 merge blocks, and those angle slopes will not bind, so the ship won't become permanently attached. In here we have the airlock that goes up into the cabin, up inside the vessel. Some cargo transfer connectors. Our atmospheric thrusters. Our downward facing hydrogen thrusters. Forward facing. And this, I kind of like to make believe that the atmospheric end thrusters require an air intake, so when I use atmospheric thrusters, I'll tend to use the grating windows, vents, whatever they call them. Keen calls them windows. This is just a little bit of decoration. I didn't want to add another layer of armor up here, so I just sealed it with windows, and then over the reactors there, and gave it a little decoration up in the front here. We have our antenna back here in line down the main center line of the ship. Our forward atmos, reverse atmos. There's not a lot of reverse thrust at all, and there's very little sideways thrust. You would fly this ship a lot like the atmospheric lander. You'd bank into your turns, pitch the nose up or down to increase, decrease speed. Here you can see this is a large to small grid splice, this intersection here, and that is secured by landing gear and connectors. I was using rotors, but they are getting really touchy lately, so I locked them into it. I put a rotor in and used that rotor hack to splice them in. Then once they were locked on, I removed the rotor and replaced it with a connector, and I wrote a script that will lock this connector and these landing gear every game tick. So even if you accidentally press P while you're flying, they should relock practically instantly. And there are projectors inside here, as well as a battery supply. And the reason for that being, these pods you see on the side here, they are jettisonable. They contain hydrogen tanks, and when they're used up, there's a hotkey on the pilot bar. Push it and they'll release. Lessen the weight of the ship, not by much. I mean, I think it was like 300,000 kilograms for both boosters, but well, they're not even a booster, it's more like an external tank, but 300,000, get rid of it, dead weight. Down here we have some sensor activated landing lights. When you get within 50 meters of station or asteroid/planet, they will automatically kick on. in the back here is our rear cargo ramp. I'll lower this here. And it does have a set of spotlights on it as well to help light up the area where the ramp touches the ground. This isn't docked, or this isn't landed real well. It's actually floating about a meter or so above the platform. If it were landed properly, these ramps would just about touch, just about. And King's default moon scuttler and planetary scuttler will actually make it up that ramp. It is steep, but if a King vehicle can do it, user-made ones sure as hell ought to be able to. Here's our cargo area. I was testing how much stuff I could cram in here at one time, and I managed to get 2 Keen atmospheric drill ships in here, 2 Keen atmospheric constructors in here, as well as the scuttler. I had all 5 small grid ships inside this cargo bay at one time. And I think I'm going to try and overlay a screenshot image I have of that in here right now. You might be asking yourself, Wolfie, how did you get them in there like that? Well, the simple answer is I flew them in there like that. I flew them in, then angled up, and the constructor actually has enough thrust to stand on its butt, but the drill ship, once I angled it up, it's kind of sitting on the rear thrusters, so there might be a little paint scrapage. Moving on. Here's our forward hydrogen thrusters. And you saw the forwards, up, downs. There's just a couple left and right hydrogens underneath here. Not much. Hopefully you wouldn't really need too much. That button panel there will turn on and off the cargo ramp lights. You can see the light coming there. It'll close the ramp, and it'll also secure it. Now, those landing gear right there will hold the swivel ramps in place. The one over here on the side will lock the larger tail section against the main hull. And close those. There's the ramp. I was kind of imagining that functioning like a kind of like a C-130 Hercules ramp, only I thought I had enough rotors on it as it was, so instead of making an upper section that lifted up into the hull, I just made a folding ramp out of it. And the ramps do fold up fairly nicely against each other once that finishes raising. You see, that is darn near flat. There's almost no gap in there at all. So the overall thickness of that ramp isn't bad if it weren't for these side pieces here that I tried to make mesh in with the main hull. Goofed up a little right there in that corner, but overall it's not too bad. We'll lock these down and then we'll head inside. Turn the lights off. And there's locks. I've been having issues with the landing gear here pulling the rotor right out of the socket. So if I were to copy this ship right now, those 2 folding ramps would not be copied with it. So you have to make sure the gear unlock before unfolding or copying, pasting. Did you get a close-up of the bridge? I don't know. Here, let's fly a little closer here. There's the bridge. Nice open cockpit area. And there's some small grid detailing inside there. get into more depth in that in a little bit. This ship does make use of the auto door closing script. It's set for about roughly 3 seconds on the timer. Here we have our first aid station. And, well, they got a potty here, normally. But with a vanilla build, like the sign says, you'll be using your suit diaper. There is gravity in here, it's very low though. Here's the second level of the Meat Popsicles, aka People Cargo Storage. And here's level 3. Now these lights, the DX11 lighting is really funky. And these lights alternate distance. There's 3 settings. There's a shallow, a medium, and a deep. And between the 3 light settings, they pretty much light up the passenger cabin fairly well. There's some of that messed up underneath here, but overall it didn't turn out too badly. Not like it normally would have. And here's the interior access to the station docking airlock. Back here we have what I'm calling the equipment room. Cargo containers, Gravogen. Up top here we have an air vent for this room, an oxygen tank. Left and right we have our gyroscopes. Of course you can see the reactors here. And these small cargo containers here, 2 of them are set aside for passenger personal belongings, and the other, I think it's 11 of them, are set aside for ice storage for fuel processing. And then behind the oxygen tank and on the second row up here are the oxygen generators. I believe there's 8 of them. And this is the rear cargo airlock. Again, you've seen this. 2 vents to make pressurizing, depressurizing this room go faster. That's all for the back of the ship. Let's head up front to the cockpit area. Here's the crew cryopods for long journeys, and I kind of try to leave some notes here for subscribers to help with what the different hotbars are. And this sign over here explains there is some equipment available for someone else to add scripts or timer functionalities or more screens. There's M-Masters configurable LCDs are installed here in one of these programmable blocks. And currently I have this set for like a load master, cargo master type personnel, and the steward seat here. But ice, the personal passenger cargo, and those 4 large cargo containers right now are filled with, this is a survival world on 1X settings. So all 4 of those cargo containers are loaded to the maximum 1.1 million kilograms apiece. And for the contest, you need to be able to load 2 of those, or take 2 of those fully loaded with iron ore into orbit. So I've got 4. I know, such an overachiever. Flight engineer and a navigation station. This is just the GPS coordinates of the world, and 5 blank screens. Over here, the flight engineer, though, this guy, he works his tail off. Uh, Oxygen generators, you can see their inventory on the top right. Power output next to that. Down on the bottom, we have the exterior fuel tanks and the internal fuel tanks, which are located in the wings. The oxygen generators in the middle screen there, whether they're on, off, or working, processing. And you also have the cabin pressure, the ship's hull pressure on the right there. The different air vents and whatnot, whether they be depressurized, pressurized, leaking. Little warning screen here about making sure the ramp's up and locked. This is your pilot station. And again, you've got your wing tanks here displaying the fuel level. These first three screens are your flight profile, whether you're on planetary atmospheric engines, or if you're in full orbital ascent mode, all the rear hydrogen thrusters are on. Or if you're in the third screen here is for space maneuvering. Most of the rear hydrogen thrusters are turned off. You've got 10 facing forward, 8 facing reverse. That way you can help judge better if you need the amount of time or distance you need to stop in. You don't have 60 hydrogen thrusters pushing you forward and then you decide you need to stop and find out you've only got 8 slowing you down. So it's 10 forward, 8 reverse. And then there's just a indicator of whether you're using your external wing tanks or your internal wing tanks. Take the seat here. And that's the gravity generator settings. Here we have a landing camera located on one of the landing stanchions. And number 2 is the orbital thrust manager. Basically, it's a throttle override for your forward-facing hydrogen thrusters. Or, well, actually, you can set it up atmospheric. Whatever thrusters you throw in the command group will be modulated. Number 4, 5, and 6 are a custom script I wrote, and that deals with the flight profiles. And there's quite a bit of grid referencing going on here, but here you can see the profiles themselves. Planetary, ascent here, and different things turning on and off. Here's the space maneuvering and the jettison the wing pods, the internal fuel tank switch, and I think that's about it. Oh, here's this bit of code here automatically locks the connectors on the wings, so if you accidentally press P, this part will automatically relock it. And let's get an outside view here. You can see right now, come on, behave yourself. Come on. This gets messy with the internal small grid cockpit details. You can see the hover atmospheric engines. They're on right now. That's because it's in planetary flight mode. This is going to be number 5 is orbital ascent. Kicks the atmospheres off, turns on the hydrogens, except the forward facing. Spin around to the back here, and you can see all the forward-facing hydrogen thrusters are on, as well as the 5 each side, facing up and down to minimize any drift from ascending. And number 6 is what you would activate once you get to space. As you see there, you got 5 thrusters on each side of the back, 2 on the top, far forward and far reverse, same as on the bottom. You got your same 3 on the bottom sides for left-right thrust, and you can see it now. Your 4 forward-facing hydrogen thrusters are now on. There's ascent mode. There's orbital maneuvering. Now, the question you've all been thinking about is how's it handle, how's it fly? Well, the answer to that question is I don't know. My worlds have been bugged since Thursday's patch. I have no gravity affecting large grids at all. Small grids, they're not bad, but large grid ships, totally unaffected by planetary gravity. This very ship here, loaded as it is, you can see it's 8.2 million kilograms. I did a planet spacebar thrust, and the ship got up to 100 meters per second, fairly fast. Then I killed the power. The ship went completely dead, and I still made orbit. I drifted 43 some odd kilometers against gravity with a dead ship and still made it outside of the gravity well. So I'm hoping Keen gets that fixed fairly quickly. That's all for today. Like I said, normally I don't do ship walkthroughs or features, but there's been a noticeable lack of content, and I want to let you guys know what I've been working on. I also have another project. That'll be the next video.